Welcome back to my channel, guys. Greetings from the Dominican Republic, hence the hotel room behind me. I'm in the Caribbean for a few days. I basically wanted to run away and escape, get a change of scenery, reset, relax, because I've been going through kind of like an emotional roller coaster the last few days. I was fired last week, and that's what this video is going to be about. So I've been working for, at this point, full-time in the workforce for about a decade. Never have I ever been fired, let go, whatever phrase you want to use. I did in college have a job, part-time gig. I was an RA, a resident assistant, and I was actually fired from that job. But it wasn't just me. Almost our entire staff got fired when I was in college because we threw a party. My hair looks crazy. We threw a party that had alcohol, and not all of us, including me, were of age. We were not all 21, and our bosses found out. They didn't hear noise, nothing like that, but through the grapevine, they found out that we had a party, and they fired everybody's ass who was at that party. And I just remember being devastated. We were all devastated by being fired, but we were also really young, and it was a big deal because it meant that all of us who were supposed to be RAs the next year were going to lose complimentary housing. So it was a big deal when you're 20, 21 years old to realize that you just lost. This was in New York City. I went to college in New York City, so very expensive housing, right? To just realize that you just lost, I don't know, 20K because of this stupid thing of having a house party. And in my case, my parents paid for my education, so I was very fortunate from that, but I felt so guilty that I was going to cost them 20K because of this stupid thing that really was not a big deal. It's not like we were like, snorting coke or shooting up heroin or something. We were drinking at a college dorm, and we weren't supposed to, and we got fired. So different time, different situation, obviously, but I remember being devastated. I will say I'm not devastated this time, but in some ways it's more troubling because I'm a 32-year-old guy and I'm on my own financially now. I mean, my parents wouldn't let me be homeless on the street either, but it's a different thing when you're a grown adult who takes pride in his work and all that stuff, and you're caught in this situation and let go from a company in a pretty, unceremonious way. So I want to tell you guys about this story and about this, I guess, what's now going to be a bizarre but new and necessary chapter of my life. So without going into too many details, some of you know I work in social media, behind the scenes, my full-time gig. I've been working in social media most of my career, working with content creators, such as YouTubers, influencers, and all of that. And the company where I've been working for almost a year now, the company's not doing super well. So, sometimes there's fat that needs to be cut, as they say, but that's not quite it, or at least that's probably a part of it, but it's not exactly the core issue, or at least how I've interpreted it. I was told when I was let go, which, by the way, if you've ever been let go, it's so awkward and uncomfortable when the suspense builds of like you show up to a meeting and you don't know what exactly is going to happen. In this case, it was a weekly meeting that we always have, so I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, but it ended up being, instead of the regular weekly meeting with my team, it was just my boss, who's only been there for 2 months, so he's a new part of the picture. I spent most of the year at this company having a different boss. So it was the old boss, the new boss, and me, and this was a video call. There was a note-taking bot, like, I guess an AI tool that records and transcribes what's being said in the meeting, I guess for legal purposes, HR purposes, to make sure that, everything's recorded in case something happens one day, they need to look back at the log, right? So as soon as I see the cast of characters, I was like, fuck, am I getting fired? Is that what's happening here? And of course, they start saying, we have to let you go. And I was essentially told that part of the reason I was being let go was because I've been giving pushback and I've been critical about certain things, and they want to make sure everybody's moving in the same direction and aligned on the vision of the company and all this stuff. Here's the thing, they're not wrong. If you've been watching my videos for a while, I've been kind of intimating that I felt like I needed a life change, a transition. So I feel like in a weird way, it's culminated and led to this point. It's just different, of course, when you're not in control of that shift, right? I mean, I made a video last week about the worst job interview I've ever had. So clearly I've been looking out there to see what's out there. But I was really shocked that they basically told me in so many words, we feel you're kind of difficult and we want to make sure everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And the reality is they are right that I had a lot of concerns with the way the company was going. But I was always very careful and diplomatic and articulate with conveying those concerns, because I know, of course, if you're dealing, anywhere, not even outside the workplace, right? You're dealing with ego. You're dealing with somebody's baby, the CEO's baby, the management team's baby, and you have to be careful about what you say. And there's an art to that, right? There's an art to giving feedback and criticism, and there's an art to taking it. Unfortunately, I learned at this company that the criticism wasn't really being received. So I always had to be very careful and try to offer solutions and different ways to see things. But ultimately, I was asked to leave. Now, here's where it gets kind of weird. I have not been clicking with the boss that I had these last 2 months. Really not clicking. And it was obvious to everybody around that it was like total personality clashes. I am prone to being very honest, I have a very guilty conscience about not telling the truth. So I was always very clear with like, this is what I'm working on, this is what's not working, and so on. And this guy that they hired to be my new boss and to lead certain initiatives at the company, I'm telling you guys, like, first time I met him, I was like, this guy has like sleazy schmuck energy, like sleazy used car salesman energy. That's the best way to describe him. So naturally, for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel for a while, you probably have enough of a glimpse into my personality to know that I just wouldn't click with somebody who's a lot of this, right? After I got fired, I called a few coworkers. We got on a group call and they were shocked, and we kind of were dissecting it, and we all sort of agreed that it feels like that guy knows things are not working well at this company and may have kind of schemed to push me out to buy himself some time. Because when things aren't going well at a company, right, there's a few different things that can happen, right? Maybe they'll get rid of the most expensive people first. Maybe they'll cut dead weight, right? Something that can happen is they'll get rid of anybody who they feel isn't totally willing to sink with the ship, right? Or anybody who's problematic to the company. And that's my interpretation of what happened here, that I basically was pushed out of a team that I have been with for a year. So financially speaking, of course, there's a stress to getting let go. I'll be okay for a while. I'm careful and all those things. For me, it's more so there's an element of, and maybe this is for anyone who gets let go because you're not in control of that dynamic. But for me, there's an element of, I feel like I got like cheated or betrayed or something. And it has definitely triggered something in me of feeling disempowered, particularly disempowered by other men who are, let's say, ego driven. It's something that really bothers me to think that my innate sort of character of being a more gentle guy, more honest, character driven, and values driven, I feel like in this situation that screwed me over. And I've been talking to friends and talking to my mom about it. She was like, you are too honest and you probably got punished for not playing the game. And she brought up this analogy of the whistleblower, if you guys are familiar with this story that just has been all over the news, this whistleblower who used to work for Boeing, the aircraft company. I guess he raised these concerns about the planes, and he was ignored and even eventually shut out and fired because they didn't want this like naysayer on the team. Turns out his concerns were valid, and there were these technical issues, mechanical issues with these planes, and the guy was totally right. So my mom was telling me this to point out, like, sometimes you're doing the right thing on a moral level, on a character level, but these are companies where they need everybody on the same mission of sometimes delusion. I mean, I've dealt with male ego in the workplace before, where sometimes you notice they care more about attitude than competence, which is a really weird thing. I feel like I got outsmarted by somebody who doesn't share the same values as me, and that really bothers me. And it's interesting because last week was very intense. Between this happening and then 2 days before that, I had the worst job interview of my life. Made a video about it. Some of you watched it and commented. It's really weird to me that 48 hours apart, I would have this two experiences in the professional world that both really irked me on a personal level, on a intuitive level, just like you walk away with like a gross feeling of, I feel like these work environments want me to have a mask on. And I don't want to go around performing in the workplace. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to play a political game of chess. I just want to show up and do my job and do it well. That's how I operate. So it's been a weird period the last few days, and this realization of like, I can't change an industry. I can't change the workplace. And there's a part also, again, that feels to me like it's connected to me being different than most men I encounter, meaning I'm not straight. I'm not like super, like dominant, masculine alpha, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like sometimes I get punished for that. I get punished for not playing the game or being that kind of force. So I'm now in this weird place where I'm like, of course I'm going to keep applying to jobs and figure out what's out there. And in the meantime, also focus on some side hustles, which I'll get back to in a second. But a part of me is also like, is this a sign from the universe that I need to radically switch gears? I'm talking like no more office jobs. Even if I'm working remotely, it's still an office environment where I find these political games happen and where I can't be totally honest. And when I say honest, I don't mean honest in a destructive way of just like, throwing people under the bus or throwing a business model under the bus. I don't mean anything like that. I mean just saying like, raising my red flag, like, guys, this isn't working. We need to fix this so that we can grow as a company. It always comes from a place of wanting to point out if something's not working that's detrimental to a company, right? So anyway, I'm just having a lot of self-reflection, which is of course good and long-term. I know everything will be fine and I'll figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm going through this weird transitional period where I don't know what's next, and I really don't know what's next. I'm not sure that working for yet another company, whether it's a corporation or a startup, but an office job, for lack of a better phrase, I don't think it's the right path for me long term. But then it's like, what do I do? Do I go back to school? I really don't want to go back to school, but I also feel like I can't keep doing exactly the same thing I've been doing for years. Now, here's what's also interesting. I mentioned the negative, unpleasant experiences of last week, but over the last month or two, suddenly my side hustles have been booming. So, not to be too tacky, but with this YouTube channel, I make ad revenue on views that I get. So the more views I get, right, the more ads are seen on my videos, YouTube sends me a paycheck. That's basically how it works. And that's the primary reason that people put out content on YouTube, so that hopefully they can make ad revenue. Of course, some people get brand deals and stuff like that, right? If you have 1 million subscribers, that's a lot more attractive to an advertiser, right? But yeah, so I make ad revenue from these videos, and over the past 4 to 6 weeks, my revenue has nearly doubled, which has never happened in the years that I've had this channel. In the past few months, I've also gotten the most new subscribers within a given period, within a month's period, the most views within a given period. So that's been a really interesting backdrop to have while this is all happening. I picked up this new consulting project in social media as well, like freelance, and this was before I got let go. So part of me is like, again, is this the universe trying to tell me, lean into these other baskets, right? This getting fired thing, the terrible job interview from last week, you cannot continue in those environments because you won't thrive, you won't be happy, and you'll feel again like you have this mask on and you're pretending to be somebody you're not, which I hate to do. Which is why, interestingly, during that meeting where I got fired, I had this weird bittersweet feeling of course, I'm like, fuck, my paychecks are gonna end. But beyond that, I was completely relieved that I didn't have to deal with this job anymore, with certain team members anymore. And you know what's really interesting is when I first started this job, I accepted it with that same bittersweetness feeling. Meaning, it's the first job, this job that I just got fired from is the first job I've ever started without being totally excited. Like I went into it having an instinct of, I don't know if this is for me, but it came along. I was desperate to get out of the previous role that I had. But it's the first time I haven't been thrilled for a new chapter. I was content enough that it was something new, but I wasn't thrilled. So it's really, really fascinating to me that I'm ending this job the same way I started it, with this bittersweet feeling. So cut to, I'm in the Dominican Republic right now, thinking about all this. I'm here by myself. It's a solo spirituality trip for me. And I'm reassessing where my life is headed. And a part of me feels like maybe this is also very much a 30-something journey of, you get to this point and you're like, I'm not happy with, I only have done the jobs that I've done for financial reasons to survive. And I feel like at this stage in the game, I should be more passionate about what I'm doing, more fulfilled. This stuff fulfills me. I love building my channel. I love watching it grow. I love interacting with you guys. But this isn't gonna pay my rent, at least not anytime soon. So I'm going through this weird period of I don't know what the next chapter is. And uncertainty is always really frightening, right? Because it's shaky ground, it's unstable ground. So yeah, I feel like it's probably something that a lot of people face at this age where they wake up one day and they're like, is it too late to start something new? Should I be starting something new? You know, I've talked on this channel before the importance of trusting your instincts. And I feel like it's just been such a weird buildup to get to this point and to have had the week that I had last week. And again, all the side hustles growing in the background. You know, people say when the universe speaks to you, you have to listen. I hate uncertainty, I hate ambiguity. But I also know that it's in these moments that then you're able to develop eventually out of these awkward, unstable, shaky grounds, you're able to figure out, you end up being forced to take a risk. I mean, you're forced to make a shift and then you go from there. So I know that long term, it's for the best. But for now, it's very uncomfortable. By the way, I've just noticed how much darker I am on camera right now. It's actually sunset outside. So hence the drastic lighting difference. It actually started really nice. In the beginning of this video, the lighting was exquisite, and now it's getting darker and darker. But hopefully quality's not too bad for you guys once I start editing this. So yeah, that's my rant. I don't know if this resonates with any of you guys. I don't know if you've been through something similar. I'm fully aware this is not the end of the world. It's not like I'm gonna be homeless tomorrow, but it's uncomfortable, right? On an ego level, it's uncomfortable. meaning on an emotional level, psychological level, to get pushed out and all that stuff, but also just the future now being uncertain. There's a freedom to that. There's an excitement to that. But there's also, for me, a fear that comes and an anxiety that comes out of not knowing what's ahead and not being even sure where to go. So that's my story for today. Thank you guys for watching as always. I might pump out another video or two while I'm here. Otherwise, I'll see you guys when I'm back stateside. Catch you next time.